Okay, so we're going to review some things, and I have my calculator for this. We're going to review, number one, the distance formula. And if you remember, the formula goes like this. It's d equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1, the quantity squared, plus y2 minus y1, the quantity squared. This is what we call the distance formula. The slope formula, we represent that as lowercase m. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then the midpoint formula, we represent that as capital M, which is equal to x sub 1 plus x sub 2 all over 2, comma, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 all over 2. And we're using these formulas when we have a coordinate plane. So we're going to go ahead and do some examples. Let's say I have a point. We'll call it point C. And point C is negative 3, comma 5. And then point D is going to be 1, comma negative 1. I want to find the distance formula. I want to find the midpoint formula, and I want to find the slope formula. The first thing that I like to do is label my x's and label my y's. So we have two x values and we have two y values. We're going to differentiate them. This is going to be my first x, so this is going to be labeled as x sub 1. This is my first y, so this is going to be y sub 1. This is x sub 2, and this is y sub 2. To find the slope formula, it's going to be m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I have y2 minus y1, so it's going to be negative 1 minus 5 over my x2 minus x1. So 1 minus negative 3. So then I have negative 1 minus 5. That's going to give me negative 6 all over 1 minus negative 3. Of a negative times a negative, that's going to become a positive. So I have 1 plus 3, that's 4. So I have negative 6 over 4, which reduces to negative 3 halves. So now what I'm going to do is I want to find the midpoint using the midpoint formula. So m equals x sub 1 plus x sub 2 all over 2, comma, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 all over 2, which is equal to the two x's, then divide by 2, so that's going to be negative 3 plus 1 all over 2, comma, 5 plus negative 1, or which is going to be 5 minus 1. So 5 plus negative 1 all over 2. And then we're going to simplify this. It's going to be negative 3 plus 1, which is negative 2. So I have, let me write this first. So negative 3 plus 1, that's negative 2 over 2, comma, 5 plus negative 1, or 5 minus 1, that's 4 over 2. And then now this is where I'm going to simplify. I have negative 1, comma, 2. So the midpoint between these 2 points here, so if you have this being the starting point and this being my ending point, the middle point would be negative 1, comma 2. Okay? All right. Lastly, we're going to look at the distance formula. So the distance formula is equal to the square root of x2 minus x sub 1. So x2 minus x sub 1, the quantity squared, plus y2 minus y1, the quantity squared. And our points are negative 3, comma 5, and 1, comma negative 1. So I'm going to equal square root. x2 is going to be 1. 1 minus x sub 1 is negative 3, so that would be 1 minus negative 3. Now I need to close the parentheses. This is a set here. Raise it to the second power plus y2 is negative 1 minus y sub 1, which is just 5. And then you're going to raise that to the second power. Okay? Now, we have the calculator. I'm not going to go further than this. I'm going to use my calculator to find the distance. The first thing that you have to do is press the second button. So press second, and then you're going to find the x squared button. The x squared button is right here. So I'm going to press that, x squared, and then hopefully you can see, there you go. Hopefully you can see it. So I press second and then x squared, which is right here. So you get that square root on your calculator. And then I'm just going to put exactly what appears on my paper, if you remember. So if I do parentheses 1 minus parentheses negative 3, close the negative 3, and then there's another parentheses right there. Okay, so then now what I need to do is I press the caret symbol here so I can raise it to the second power. Then in order for me to get out of the exponent mode, I need to arrow to the right just once, then press the plus button, then input this. So that's negative 1. Since it's a negative, you press the negative button here, right? So negative 1 minus 5, close it, raise it to the second power, and then it looks like you have everything. Press enter, and your answer is going to be, let's round to the nearest tenth. So this is the tenth place, and the 1 dictates the 2, and since 1, right, the number 1, that is less than 4, so any number below 4, this number is going to remain the same. So your answer is approximately 7.2.